Welcome to Triathlon University. The last video we did related to bike course rules for Ironman and non-draft legal triathlon was very well received, and you guys were asking me questions about if I had any videos related to the swim, and I did not until now. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to run through specifically for Ironman and Ironman 7.3 rules for the swim. Now you should always read the Ironman rule book and the athlete guide before any race that you're going to do. But I thought a visual guide might be helpful, so we can talk about temperature ranges for wetsuit. We can talk about buoys, assistance during the swim, all kinds of fun things. So let's get started. First things first, you cannot use things like this during the swim. So a snorkel, paddles, a pool buoy, gloves, all of those things are not allowed during the swim during Ironman races. Next, let's talk about what you were going to see during this swim. So how on earth do you know where you're going? Well, that's what these are. This cute little triangle guy is a buoy. So during the swim, they're going to have buoys lining the entire route. So a lot of times it will go in a straight line. Sometimes you'll go in a square. Sometimes it's a triangle. Sometimes you have to do laps. So a lot of times the buoys are color coded. So you'll see in the athlete guide, okay, buoys going out are going to be red, buoys coming back are going to be orange, or it's going to have some type of coding with it. So it will help you if you like to kind of think about where you are during the swim. But they're massive, you cannot miss them. However, you want to make sure to learn to sight. So that's something we practice in the pool and in open water. So it's gonna be taking a couple of strokes and then doing alligator eyes, and then you're gonna breathe, take a couple of strokes. I sight like every 5 strokes or so, 5 to 7, and it just helps to keep you straight and on track, but it's something you definitely have to practice. Most commonly asked question related to the swim is, what can I wear in the swim? So with water temperatures, there are different ranges where you can wear a wetsuit and you can't wear a wetsuit. So I have this little thermometer guide here for you. So the magic number you need to remember is 76.1 up to and including 76.1 degrees Fahrenheit. Congratulations, you are allowed to wear a wetsuit. Now, if the temperature is above 76.1 up to 83.8, certain events may allow you to wear a wetsuit. However, you will not be eligible for awards, and typically you have to start at the very back of the swim, which is not always the best plan, and I'll explain why a little bit later. If the temperature is 83.8 degrees Fahrenheit and above that, then you're not allowed to wear a wetsuit. You're going to overheat. Now, if we go on the opposite range, if it is 60.8 or colder, then wetsuits are mandatory. And I actually have done a wetsuit mandatory swim. It was Ironman Arizona a couple of years ago, and wetsuits were definitely mandatory because it was 59 degrees. It was very cold that day. So what can you wear? Well, you're going to wear a tri-suit. Now, if it is wetsuit legal, you can wear a triathlon wetsuit. So they look something like this. And you can wear that up to 76.1 degrees is wetsuit legal in Ironman triathlon. Now, if it is not wetsuit legal, there's something else you can wear, which is called a swimskin. So whereas a wetsuit's going to provide you with a little bit of warmth and buoyancy, helps you stay up in that horizontal position, and it's going to make swimming feel a little bit easier, help you save a little energy. If it's a little bit too warm, you can wear a swim skin. Now, this does not provide any buoyancy at all. It just has a hydrophobic coating. So basically helps you slide through the water like a seal. Now, this is just going to help you be a little bit faster during a non-wetsuit legal swim. But I would say, if you wanted to ask my opinion, this is more of a luxury item. Whereas a wetsuit is pretty much something that every triathlete needs to own, because you're never going to know what the temperature is going to be until you get there. And you don't have to memorize all this, because they're going to let you know on race morning. They're going to post it everywhere. They will let you know what the temperature is. But it is always a good idea if you are a triathlete, unless you're planning on doing a one and done and you're doing Ironman Cozumel, which is never wetsuit legal, and you're never going to do another triathlon again, then maybe you don't need a wetsuit. But if you're planning on being in the sport for, a little while, I would advise getting a wetsuit. Now, I have another video on my page about sleeveless versus sleeve wetsuits, so you can check that out. I have this little guy down here. This is a kayak person, and there's a little swimmer grabbing a hold of the kayak. Is that allowed during a race? Like if you got tired or something? Yes, the answer is you are allowed to grab a hold of a kayak, a stand-up paddleboard. They sometimes even have floating docks out there. If you need to hold on, if you get into trouble, if you just start to panic a little bit, you can hold on to a kayak. That's absolutely no problem. You will not get in trouble for that. The only thing you cannot do is hold on to the kayak and instruct the kayaker to take you down the course. You cannot make forward progress with whatever you are holding on to. So take a break, take a few deep breaths, and then keep going, but you will absolutely not be penalized for that. That is okay. Note about open water swimming. You must practice in open water before race day. Now, why do you need to do that? You might say, oh, I swim in the pool, it's fine, I'm gonna be fine, I don't need, okay. Open water swimming is a completely different animal. There are no lane lines. There is not a wall to grab a hold of. There is dark water. There are aquatic creatures in the water. A lot of people, that provides a lot of anxiety, and they don't realize it until they get out there. So you want to make sure that you practice in open water ahead of time. So a few good rules for open water. You can wear a inflatable buoy around your waist that just has a little strap that has a little thing that you blow up and it follows you around. You want to make sure that you wear something like that so you're visible if you're practicing in a lake or something, so you're visible to boats. Also, never want to do open water swimming alone. Always need to have a buddy, just for safety purposes. And then also pay attention where you're swimming. If you're swimming in a lake, or if you're in a river, there's still currents. And so you need to make sure that you pay it, especially in the ocean. You want to make sure that you're picking the appropriate time to swim. You need to practice in your wetsuit. This is important. Please do not wait until race day to make that be the first time that you wear your wetsuit. Because wearing a wetsuit, people have to get used to having material that's going to provide some slight chest compression, right? And so this can make people sometimes hyperventilate. They have a hard time breathing. They have a feeling of shoulder restriction. They don't like that. And so all these things can contribute to anxiety during the swim, and we don't want that. So you want to make sure that you practice in your wetsuit several times before race day. If you absolutely cannot get in open water for some reason, then you need to try your wetsuit on in the pool, and you need to practice in it a couple times. I have a tip for you. When you put your wetsuit on, make sure you do not just stick your legs in it like a pair of pants and pull it up. That's the worst thing that you can do. You take each leg. What I do is I put on a plastic bag on my foot, okay? And then you're going to roll each leg up like it's a pair of stockings or pantyhose. You're gonna go one leg at a time. You're gonna work it all the way up and work it up. It takes a long time. A properly fitting wetsuit should take you 10 to 15 minutes to put on, and that's the way it is. They come off much faster. Putting them on takes a while, and that's totally fine. So once you get one leg on, then you start working on the other leg. Then the goal is to get it up as high into your crotch as possible. You need to get that bottom portion up high, because once you put the top portion on, you don't want it to pull down. And if you do not have the bottom portion up as high as it needs to be in the appropriate position, it's gonna pull down on your shoulders. It can cause even more chest compression, so we don't want that. Once you get the bottom as high up as possible, then you're gonna do one arm at a time. And a lot of times you need someone to help zip you up in the back. That is totally fine. You can also use a bit of body glide, like on your wrists and your ankles, especially like back here on your neck if you're doing a saltwater swim, because it's very hard to prevent chafing in saltwater. And so that definitely helps just provide a little bit of lubrication. Also, this is one of my best tips that my coach taught me, actually. So when you put your wetsuit on, have a bottle of water with you in transition. Take it and put a little bit in the chest area and then kind of readjust it. So when you put a wetsuit on and it's dry, that's how we put it on, but it's gonna create like a vacuum on your chest, which can cause more compression. So you just put a little bit of water from your bottled water in there and you move it around, and that will definitely help loosen up this area. So if you struggle with that, that is definitely something I would try. We do that before every race. There is one thing to keep in mind with wetsuit versus non-wetsuit swims. So when it is a wetsuit legal swim, you might see people like on the bike wearing these aero calf sleeves or even like compression sock type things. So if it's a wetsuit legal swim, you can wear those underneath your wetsuit. And then you take your wetsuit off and transition and you're ready to go. Now, if it is a non-wetsuit legal swim, the rule is that you cannot have anything below the knee or below the elbow. And there is a religious exemption that has to do with full body covering, but that's not what we're talking about here. Basically, if you had a non-wetsuit legal swim, you cannot wear calf sleeves or anything like that. You would have to just put them on in transition. So that's just something to know. It's a little quirk. If you do decide to do that, I do that. So I know that for wetsuit legal races, I can wear my calf sleeves underneath my wetsuit. If it's a non-wetsuit legal race, I'm wearing my swimskin, then I just have to put them on in transition. Now, other things that concern people about the swim, that kind of make them freak out a little bit. Sometimes they've seen these old videos from like 20 years ago where you have Kona and you've got like this massive group of like 200 people running in the water at the same time. We don't do that anymore for obvious reasons. So if you're going to go to an Ironman 70.3 race or an Ironman race, every race is going to have a little different process for the swim start, but these are self-seeded events. And so if you're a pro, it's different. But if you are an age grouper, you're going to seed yourself based on what pace you typically swim per 100. So you're going to look and there's going to be volunteers. They're going to have these signs. It's going to say 130 per 100, 140 per 100, 150 per 100. So you can kind of find your group that you want to, just swim in, and you're going to line up. Now, sometimes you start 3 at a time. They'll let 3 athletes run into the water. Like if you're on a beach, when I did Ironman Florida, you're going to do that. You're going to run off the beach into the water. And then there's other races like at Chattanooga, you're going to jump off a dock. Technically, they don't like you diving. They'll yell at you if you do that. But you're going to start on a dock. Sometimes you jump off a ferry. But typically, it's always going to be a couple athletes at a time. Now, one of the most common mistakes that people make with the swim, and the reason they get a little bit freaked out, is because they will jump in. You have that adrenaline. You're like, yes, I'm ready to race. And they start breathing a little bit too fast. And so what happens is if you start hyperventilating, that's definitely going to make you feel like you can't breathe, and you might have to kind of stop. So we don't want that. Also, if you are exhaling too aggressively, that can, you're blowing off too much CO2. That can cause you to feel out of breath and hyperventilate a little bit too. So the best thing you can do is start off the swim easy. Even if you're planning on, you're a pretty good swimmer and you want to race fast, that's fine. But there is nothing wrong with getting in and for the first 100, 200 yards, just breathe easy. You can even count. That's a favorite trick of my husband's. If you just keep counting 1, 2, 3, 4, it gives you something else to think about. Just occupies your mind. Then once you get your breathing under control and you're swimming comfortably, then you can always increase your effort if you want to. But probably one of the worst things you can do is like start going right from the gun like a maniac. You're not a pro triathlete, you're an age group athlete. So we're just going to ease into the swim and you'll have a much better experience. If you guys enjoy these videos, then stay tuned, because I think we got to do a run one, right? Because we got to do swim, bike, and run and complete the trifecta. Speaking of that, if you like this kind of stuff and you want to learn more about triathlon, we have the Triple Threat Life Weekly. So join that at the link in my bio. And it is a twice weekly newsletter that we send out to your email. And it's got triathlon tips. We do mindset skills for racing. We have all different kind of stuff, pacing, nutrition. And so sign up and it's free and you can get Triple Threat Life Weekly. And we want to train and race smarter, not harder, right? So do that, and happy triathlon training. I'll see you guys later.